So we are live with LinkedIn with Lance Gruner. How you doing today, Lance?
Doing excellent.
So for those who do not know Lance is the EVP of Global Customer Care for Mastercard. Tell me about what you're doing today and even the breakfast that you've had this morning and the conversations that you've seen around customer contact.
Well, you know, this morning we had a great breakfast with our team from the CEO of Taco Bell.
Yep.
Even more so, what I do love about the buildup of this week really is about everything about the customer. Arming customer service leaders with the tools necessary to really lead in this new world and a new environment. But this morning really talked about what are the challenges facing a lot of companies today. And at the end of the day, no matter what's out there, the importance of taking care of the customer. At the end of the game, you cannot take away from everything. It has to focus on making sure you're taking care of the customer.
So it sounds very easy. Just take care of the customer, Lance.
Just take care of the customer.
Just nailed it.
If
you just type it in, take care of the customer, it's going to be super simple and everybody's going to do it.
But we know today, I mean, every leader is facing a number of new challenges today. Coming out of COVID, post-COVID, when we talk about taking care of the customer, we're dealing with some financial headwinds when you look at the markets, when you look at what to invest in. You look at the change of the customers today, their expectations, their bar for experience is raised. When we talked about earlier about the Amazon experience, well, that continues. People still have that expectation of basic experience. And it's not because it's not industry specific. It's basically my experience, the best experience I've had, no matter what, that's the minimum experience I expect everyone. And the third is our employees have changed. The needs have changed. Their work-life balance, the things that are important to them today. And so those challenges are facing every leader today about how to manage in this new world.
So that's two completely different sides of the business, right?
It is.
But they both equally intertwine.
Yeah.
Very, very, it's a mesh. So how do you consistently meet the customer's expectations of where they're at on the channel of their choice and reduce that friction because they're always going to change? I want my consumers to do this, but they're saying one thing and they're actually doing something else, right? So how are you adapting that?
It really is making sure that whatever tools you have, whatever process you have, are aligned to what the customer needs are. And again, it's almost like it's almost the need to go back to the basics. Basic skills of listening to what the customer is telling you, not assuming you understand what the customer wants or is telling you. It really is listening to understand what are they asking you to solve. And I think that muscle we need to strengthen, especially coming up post-COVID. And I think everybody could have an experience every day where you're going in and engaging with different businesses, different customers, and people, and they're not listening to what you're trying to say. I get frustrated sometimes. You go into a coffee shop and you order something and you get something wrong. It's like, I asked for this. They said, no, you asked for this. No, you didn't listen to me. And so I think what's important is really focusing back on the basics, because you do have all these counter polarizing things that you have to deal with as a leader. Financial, we can talk about that. We talk about you have to continue to do the right thing. That is take care of the customers. Take care of the customers. You got to listen to what they want. Now you need to make sure when you understand what you're trying to be there for your customers, now making sure your processes, make sure your tools, make sure your training, everything aligns to it.
You touched on listening just a little bit. When it comes to the associates, they're trying to find ways to drive efficiencies on the associates. And sometimes they want to listen, but maybe they're in this box and they're saying, here's the 5 options that I can do to solve that person's problem. Instead of saying, I'm going to listen to this person intently, active listening, and then doing something about it. And I'm not measured on average handle time, which is the legacy mechanism. But how do you combat that of finding that efficiency?
I'm of the belief if you take care of the customers and you have the right processes, everything else falls in line. I've never been one to look immediately at all the KPIs or the measurements right up front.
Yep.
What's the AHT? What's that? What I want to understand is, how's the customer satisfaction? Are we solving the customer? The call that you're on right now, the email that you're answering right now, the chat that you're on right now, no matter what channel you are, that's the most important thing that you're doing at that time. Taking care of the customer. And it's now my job as a leader, or any leader, to make sure we provide the right tools and training to our frontline associates that take care of our customers. And then if you provide the right tools, the right processes, the right training, and their focus is on listening, the numbers will all fall in line. You won't have rework, you won't have escalations, you won't have, and so those all add to the expense line as well.
So it's not just about listening to the consumer or the customer, but it's also about listening to the employee.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
how do you consistently focus on what their expectations are? Because some people want to work from home. Some people are saying, oh, I want to work 100% in the office, or I want a hybrid approach, or I want to go to my kid's soccer game. So how do you meet their expectations and being able to personalize that experience as well?
You know, it's difficult because when you have, whether you have 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, 2,000 people, you're never going to make everybody 100%. We all have different needs. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to really, at the end of the day, provide a great manager that knows how to motivate their employees that want to come into work, they want to be part of it, whether it's hybrid, exactly, is basically managers have got to tune in. And that is really the number one reason for attrition is managers. Now, culture is also a surrounding factor. So if they have the right culture and the right managers, the rest is going to come in because people are going to want to be part of that culture, they want to come in. The answer everybody asks me a lot of times is 100% back in the office right? Is hybrid right? Is, some type of, fully remote? Is that the right answer? I think one of the surprising factors is whether you are in the office or no, the productivity differences really not that much.
Yeah.
When you really come down to it.
So you touched on just a smidge. You gave us a little hook, line, and sinker around the financial side of the business when it comes to the technology or getting investments around the experience. How tough is that in the marketplace?
It's difficult everywhere. I mean, every company is fighting this, and it's challenged with this. And I think those currents are very strong, especially when you see the market globally where we are, and that's challenging every company. And I think then what it turns to the leaders to make sure we're good stewards of them, to make sure we're as efficient as possible, and that we are investing in the things that are actually going to make the biggest return. So I think if you really justify an investment need, making sure that you show what the return of that's going to be, then I think that's going to make it easier to get that investment.
So return on investment, return on the experience. Is experience bad?
Ooh, great question. I hear this a lot of times, whether it's C-suite or managers, because it's been post-COVID, experience, loyalty, experience. And whether the term experience, terms may be fad, but is really experience and service a fad? It really is, at the end of the day, no matter what you are, no matter what industry you're in, you've got to take care of the experience. And that is experience. Customers will expect a certain experience. They're going to expect that they're going to be listened to. They're going to expect that their problem's going to be solved. That's why they're coming.
So there's a difference between what I call the pixie dust and fairy tales of the experience. Like, oh, we have to do customer experience. We have to do employee experience. But if we're actually measuring on what matters and looking at the data, then you can align it to the outcomes that you're trying to achieve.
Yes. And I think when you talk about the pixie dust, there's a difference between all the talk about experience and it's walking the talk. And that's what's not going to happen. The bubble, or when people talk about, is everybody's like, yeah, of course we're doing experience. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're talking about experience. Every department has somebody responsible for experience. Is that translating into execution? And that's the separation. That is what's going to be the longevity. That is going to separate. That's the differentiator between businesses and industries.
So, customer service and customer experience leaders today, they are trying to figure out how to get that buy-in, how to get investment, how to focus on customer and employee experience, and looking at the financial impact wrapping it up in a bow. What insights or information would you give to a leader in customer service, customer experience today in that small to medium-sized organization?
At the end of the day, it's telling the story. It's telling the story to the right audience. Too many times I've seen customer service leaders just regurgitate numbers. And they're just numbers on paper. But to get the attention of your leader, C-suite leader, get investments, it really is about how do I align the story and the message to that audience and making sure it's compelling, making sure you understand who the audience is and what story you're telling to make sure they've got the buy-in, that they've got that hook, they've got that I'm invested, I understand.
Yep.
Versus just seeing a number. If you see a spreadsheet and a number and a chart, it doesn't mean anything. But what's behind that? What are the customers telling you? What does the customers need? Are you solving that need? Is this great thing that you put on the market, is it solving the need or is it just flashy? Have we checked in with our customers? But it really is about telling that story.
Have you always been good at that?
I would say I've developed it along the way. You've learned. I mean, we've all made mistakes. We've all have challenges. I wouldn't say that I was born being able to tell the story. But I did learn from really good people. I listened a lot. And yes, there's a little bit of, I think I'm different in understanding the customer. It's one of those things that you have kind of, it's in your DNA. Customer is in my DNA. And I do pride myself in being able to listen and observe things slightly different than an average other leader.
Yep.
Because I in tune to the energy. I tune into what's not being said. All the nonverbal cues. Those are important. And just as when you're, depending on whether you're on the phone or whether you're at the front desk, whatever your role is in taking care of customers, you need to be good at really tuning into those nonverbal cues and then being able to do it.
So I had the opportunity to interview Chris Voss. He wrote the book Never Split the Difference, and he talks about the and he was saying in customer service, you should be really focusing about what's not being said. He's like, focus on it sounds like, it seems like, it feels like we didn't meet expectations. It seems like we let you down. It seems like we didn't, there's a lot of friction here. Here's what we're going to do. Instead of just immediately regurgitating that cookie cutter approach, you're actually listening to the customer. And you started with listening, and you're ending with listening about the associates, listening to the end user, listening to your leaders, your peers, and then going back to that storytelling. I think that's fascinating.
I've learned throughout my career that what customers or guests will tell you or are complaining about or escalating about really isn't the true issue. That's a symptom.
Yep.
And so what I try to communicate to my leaders and I try to live is making sure I understand and I solve for the root, not solve for the symptom. Too many companies, too many leaders, quick to solve, quick to run, quick, you've got this issue, got to take care of it. Are you solving the symptom or are you actually solving the root? That's when customer satisfaction goes off the charts. Because if you understand what I'm trying to tell you, I may not tell you in the beginning. If you really listen and you tune in, it's not being said, and solve that, that's when you've got a great business.
That is just a golden nugget for life.
It truly is.
Yeah.
It truly is.
You just actually focus on, I'm not an arborist, but if I just cut the leaf and I see that the trunk is starting to cut down the middle, I need help.
Yes.
And then sometimes I need a specialist to help me come in and help that out. But sometimes it needs medicine. Sometimes the whole thing needs cut down and start back up. But truly starting from the root cause and working backwards towards the emotion behind it.
Yeah. There is so much noise out there. Noise, when I talk about technology, is ever evolving at a quick pace.
Yep.
It changes almost daily. When you look about what we're having to look at, you look at customer pressures, customer needs are changing. So, and employees, the same thing. All this noise out there, and so it's really important that will never change. Is really focusing in on that listing, focusing on really understanding what the customer true need is.
So this is the last thing, I swear, that we will touch on, but we're talking about the noise. I mean, we're at Customer Contact Week. There's probably a lot of technology. There's an Expo Hall that's 50 steps away from us. We get bombarded by information.
Yes.
There's always something new that's coming out. If it's weekly, if it's monthly, if it's annual, and you're like, aha, that's interesting. The chat GPT, we kind of chatted on a little bit, but there's a lot of noise, a lot of marketeering that shows up. How do you kind of decipher what that looks like? Peel back the curtain, per se, of what they're saying, and then looking at that root cause of the issue and saying, I think that might fit. Let's start talking, because you're going to get bombarded by information nonstop, especially somebody at your level. How do you decipher?
The challenge anybody has at any level is there's so much information. The state of technology, you look at your phone, you have information being presented to you at fast pace.
Yep.
What you have to do is you have to put it and compartmentalize it. To basically say, what I try to do is, all right, technology is enabling. There's no one technology, there's no one solution that is going to be to solve it. So if you're looking for that one thing, or that walk up and down and say, I can choose this and this is going to solve, it's not going to. If you respect that technology is an enabler and helps you with what you need to do to accomplish, then you can harness that. The same thing with data. We have so much data today about what the customer says. Speech and text analytics. You look at all the surveys. You look at whether it's information that's coming in unsolicited or solicited.
Yep.
There's so many information. You look at KPIs, you look at reports. You can get so bogged down if you get myopically focused on numbers. You have to take a step back and go, I'm going to use that data. I'm going to only use the data necessary when I'm trying to solve it. Not basically go, oh my God, the other way. It's like the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah.
It really is making sure I'm using data, I'm using technology, I'm using processes when I need as an enabler. And basically you have to, as a leader, diagnose what problem you're trying to solve. Then you can go find the solutions.
Like a focus on reverse engineer that.
Yes.
Instead of just saying technology, it looks really cool, look at that shiny object.
Exactly.
Instead you're looking at what you're trying to focus on. So it sounds like the root cause again.
Root cause.
Seems
You
like
really
there's
get down there. It's funny. No matter you're over the years, and I've been in the industry more years than I care to say, but it really is the basics. It really is getting into understanding what you're trying to solve. And then you've got amazing tools out there, amazing people, amazing processes that can help you with it. But you need to understand what you're trying to solve.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for your time. It's been a
pleasure.
blast. For those who are streaming live right now, we have Lance, Executive Vice President of Global Customer Care for Mastercard. Follow him, follow Mastercard, and Lance, I'm looking forward to the journey that you're on, and looking forward to seeing you around Contact Week.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank you. Take care.